Hi, I'm Oscar Clark. I'm Chief Strategy Officer at Fundamentally Games, and we're a living game publisher, which means we're interested in games that people are going to play and love and keep playing and keep loving over long periods of time. Players need to give themselves permission to buy your game. Why am I saying that? Because there's one fundamental rule about monetization. It's not about what you think. It's not about what you think your game is worth. No one cares what your game is worth. What they care is what they're going to get. So really, a short story short is your way to monetize your game comes from what do your players value? And your job is to set up an expectation of anticipation around that, fear of missing out around that, social capital around that, and then, and only then, will they generate that value. Now, there's a little bit of an extra story to that because that's just the core principle. The reality of this is the journey to get to that point. We have to understand the player journey, the onboarding, bringing those people into that story. We are telling stories to players, whether it's a literal story or a figurative journey. They are going on their own hero's journey. To do that, we need to be aware that they're going to have a reluctance to spend. They're going to have that, road of trials. Now, this is where hybrid monetization can be incredibly effective. I don't like charging up front for games. I think it just means that you put people off who might otherwise really love your game. Instead, I want you to come in and I want you to try the game. I want to, instead of thinking about the store is the place where you go get my game and you pay for it over there, I want you to think of my game as the place that you come, and I will offer you things that you value because you understand the game and what it does for you. Therefore, I want to sell you the things that are important in my game. I don't want some store that has no emotional connection with my experience. So, if you come into my game, how can I help you understand it? Well, maybe I can show you something. Maybe I'll put an advert in the way. Watch this advert, get this reward, get a taste of what's interesting. And you get lots of examples of rewarded ads being used in that way, really cleverly. Sometimes, rarely, but sometimes you may want to give somebody a reason to pause, a moment of rest between the intensity of play and the next moment of play. In that, we can use an interstitial, an ad that you put in the way, just to slow people down. But you have to use that really, really carefully, because guess what? They don't like it. If it doesn't actually provide that value, they're gone. So there's other techniques like putting ads inside the world where there is no resistance. And if it's done well, if it's done in a crafted and beautiful way, then it creates a moment which actually cements the world concretely in our perception and expectation. If you do in-world ads, they can be incredibly powerful and incredibly important, and they don't get in the way. And similarly, if you have ads that focus on the audio, where you can continue playing whilst you're hearing the ad, that again can reduce the resistance, because we're talking about the friction of the experience as you play through, thinking about that player experience again. So, where's the anticipation? Where's the value? Well, if I don't get something I care about when I watch a rewarded ad or through playing that sets up an expectation of what's coming next, I'm not going to get the value. So why don't we be smarter? One of my favourite examples of this was a game called Let's Go Rocket by a company called Cobra Mobile. A good friend of mine, Mark Ettle, runs that company. And in that game, it was a ridiculously silly, simple puzzle game where you went up and down and you had to press the screen. Nothing, who cares? The detail of it. But they had some amazing skins. So some skins that look like asteroids, some skins that look like Jimmy Neutron from Nickelodeon, some skins that look like racing car games. But it's the same mechanic, but the skins made it feel dramatically different. And what they did with the adverts is every once in a while they would say, hey, try this new skin. Just watch an advert and then you can try the skin. You watch the ad, you got the skin. You could play that skin for 3 goes. At the end of those 3 goes, it said, do you want to buy that skin? To me, that's the perfect setup. Now, literally copy that. I mean, you need to find the context for your game and the value for your game. But the reason it was perfect for me was because we set up that this skin had value because you had to watch an ad to unlock even a trial of it. Once you had done that, you got to experience it fully and properly for 3 turns, and then it was taken away from you unless you chose to buy. So if you chose to buy at that point, you also often got a discount, a one-time opportunity to get that cheaply. And that is magic. That is really smart thinking. And I think we can be only smart thinking when we put the player first. Where is the value for the player? We're back to our bower, we're back to those anticipation, fear of missing out, social capital, and the abnegation part, because only the player can give them that value. What you need is a framework of monetization. If you think about the detail of your economy too early, you can actually paint yourself into a corner. So you need to make sure you've got fluidity. You need to make sure you understand what the value is for the player. So for example, we need to think about what is the I call it subsistence goods. So the things that we need or we can't play. Like if I've got to pay up front, there is a subsistence of ownership. If I have to have fuel to drive my car, there's a subsistence of fuel. If I have to have health or I can't fight, there I've got a subsistence of health. So that's a good. How do I get that good? Do I consume health potions? Do I consume fuel? Do I fill my fuel tank up? Do I have a capacity to how much fuel I can hold in my fuel tank? How big those health potions are? Can I upgrade my fuel tank? Can I upgrade the size or the formula for my health potions? Can I generate health naturally by recovering over time? Can I fill my fuel tank naturally by not playing? Why do we do that? Why would we encourage people to not play? Well, because we want you to come back. Well, if you know that you're going to automatically get something to come back to, you don't want to miss out on that, especially if the capacity has a cap. Because at a certain point, it's no longer efficient to be waiting. So you're missing out what you could be earning, the more play that you could be playing because you didn't come back early enough. So thinking about subsistence in that kind of clever way is interesting. Another example would be to think about shortcuts, armor, guns, bigger guns, even bigger guns. You want to have gold-colored, Bitcoin labeled, amazing kind of ridiculously gorgeous-looking things that you can show off to people. And they make your gameplay better and easier and more likely to win. That's that's something we can crave, we can look forward to. The shortcuts can also be consumable. They can also come in little packets you use and it's gone. You can also have these capacities. How many of those power-ups can I store and take it with me into a game? How many can I store in my wallet that I can have between game sessions? And how many are going to generate over time? And the same thing applies to strategy goods. What's a strategy good? Strategy good is something that lets me have a new choice, a new way to play. A little trick with strategy goods though, if you're going to introduce a strategy good in your game, you need it to make sure that it doesn't make everybody else's game worse. It has to make everybody else's game better. So bear with me, not quite a true analogy, but you'll get my drift. Scissor, paper, stone. Okay, I buy the add-on Lizard Spock. Because I bought the add-on Lizard Spock, but you've only got scissor, paper, stone, I've now got 2 more choices. But you have to react to 2 more choices. So I have an advantage. There is actually a mathematical advantage, but I won't bore you with the details. But let's assume that the game has been done that eliminates that particular element. But now you've got 2 more choices that you've got to react to. You didn't pay for that. You've got an extra benefit in terms of complexity and interest and depth and strategy that wasn't there before, but you didn't pay for that. The person who bought the add-on paid for that. But they get an advantage because they can initiate that process. So that's what strategy goods should do. Add a new way to play that unlocks a depth and interest. They can also be done as consumables. They can also be done with a generator. How often do we get those? The capacity, how many we can hold of those things. So I've just described 4 types of good. Strategy, consumable. Sorry, no, get it right. There's strategy, there's subsistence, there's social, as in things that look good, outfits and so on and so forth. And the fourth one is the shortcuts. So those 4 types of good, delivered as consumables, delivered as capacity, delivered as generators, gives you an amazing array. And there's an extra thing you can do. You can sell them a permanent item, an aspirational item. That last thing, that last permanent item is just the same as the others, but you get to keep it. It's a permanent upgrade. Weird thing is, permanent upgrades aren't valuable once you've got them, because it's only the anticipation of them that you value. Once you've got them, they're the hygiene factor, so you've got to be careful of what I call the rat problem. MMOs, you could argue, are simply you're fighting a rat, only each time you level up it's a bigger rat. Anyway, so I won't bore you with the rest of the details, but what I'm hopefully painting a picture there is there actually a lot of complexity and detail behind what your game does and how your game delivers, how you can implement those things. And you need to think about that in your early days of design, but you don't have to think about the economy balance until later. In fact, you don't want to think about the economy balance until later. You need to know where the sinks and sources are, but you're going to have to change all of the variables based on what real people actually do. You need an economy that is balanced. In fact, no, that's not true. You need an economy that is ever so slightly imbalanced. The argument for that is a fantastic book by Dan Ariely called Predictably Irrational. In that book, he talks about the Hershey's Kiss and the Lindt chocolate. That's basically the argument for free-to-play. I'm not going to bore you with that one right now. But the other argument in that is the hot dog economics. Seriously, this is a great book. Everyone who does monetization should read Dan Ariely's book, Predictably Irrational. But the reason why I'm so fascinated by hot dog economics is this. We buy hot dogs in 8s. We buy hot dog buns in 6s. Why? Is this a conspiracy of Brady combustibles? No. This is about being able to think about how I need more buns because I've got extra hot dogs. I now need more hot dogs because I need more buns. Now, why is this good? Why is this not just a scam? In games, it's not a scam. If you think it's about like Fallout 76, I've got to do this particular bit of work to unlock the ability to unlock the next gameplay. It builds more time to play. It means that game developers can spend more time creating amazing missions without being stuck on a content treadmill. So that's why you need to think about monetization early, but you need to optimize it late, and then you can have sustainable games.